Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and I hope today's video finds you incredibly well, because we have just discovered, it has just been reported, that the super mayor, Tiffany Henyard, who we suspected was the target of the FBI investigation, to which subpoenas had been dropped at the village of Dolton and at the Dolton Township, was in fact the target of said investigation. And now we have proof positive of that, because a recent subpoena that has now made it to the public names her specifically. They want all the records, they want all the receipts, all the work that we put in talking trash about the super mayor, making false allegations.
So when people talk, they should go research the numbers of back then and then research my numbers and compare. I'm putting that together just so I can show the public, because now it's all about showing people that everybody been lying this entire time doing a smear campaign. So now I'm gonna show them, and then now you judge, because y'all all judging, meaning people out there are judging off of hearsay, false allegations, and not facts.
Turns out to be real allegations, and it looks like she is not long for the village of Dolton or for the Dolton Township, and we're going to get into it today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
I'm happy that justice is being served.
Dolton trustee Brittany Norwood reacts to the latest federal subpoena served Monday at Dolton Village Hall, asking for all payments, expense reimbursements, per diems, and credit card expenditures for Mayor Henyard, beginning just before her election in 2021.
Yeah, you heard that right. And of course, you have members of the Board of Trustees who have been trying to fight back against the super mayor that are quite happy about the fact that she is the target of the investigation. It has been a long time coming. She's been in office since 2021. And yeah, I mean, when you're this overtly and over the top corrupt, we got to see what's going on. And the fact that she tried to suppress all this information from the public, and she had been doing so since September of last year, I don't think is going to prove to all of us that she's just been doing right by the people like she claims.
But everything we do for the people. But we under attack. We getting scrutinized in the media. For what? Loving on the people? Showing them that they matter to us? We going through the fires for y'all. We, us, me and my administration. So don't y'all ever talk to them like that. Don't y'all ever tell them that they was told what to say. Because they don't. They got minds of themselves. And they all educated up here. All of them got degrees.
Now, look, I know a lot of people say, Sean, you reuse those clips way too often. But again, I will say, go to that Village of Dolton board meeting, realize that she was screaming for about 45 minutes straight on a rant, all kinds of crazy things, and you'll see that I don't share nearly enough of those clips.
Hey guys, it's the super mayor, Tiffany Henyard, the people's mayor and people's supervisor.
The same information is also requested for Henyard's top assistant, Keith Freeman, and a pair of businesses controlled by Freeman, as well as several trustees and village employees who've traveled with Henyard.
So we have already talked about on this channel, you could check the Super Mayor playlist that I have linked in the description, a bunch of people on this list. Keith Freeman, his bankruptcy fraud in particular, where this guy was claiming that after all of his expenses, he only had a net income of about $94.72, as absurd as that sounds, and he didn't even report his nearly $100,000 income at the village of Dolton, despite the fact that it is a matter of public record that he not only works as Tiffany Henyard's right-hand man in the Dolton Township, but of course in the village of Dolton, and half the clips we've ever shown you of Keith Freeman happen to be him in the village of Dolton. However, a keen observer will notice more than a few familiar names to all the different various stories that we've covered on the channel. So right there, you could see Trustee Holmes is named. He's the person that was on the Vegas trip that was accused of a sexual assault that the super mayor is accused of covering up. Again, we will wait for those allegations or allegations to be adjudicated later in the future. But also a name that sticks out to me and likely should stick out to you, because I played this clip enough times on this channel, is Terry Young, also known as Officer Terry Young, the man who managed over a 2-week period to work 303 hours on Tiffany Henyard's security detail.
And in the case of Officer Terry Young last May, 303 hours worked over a 2-week period. That resulted in a single paycheck of more than $13,000.
How? How does a person put in a 2-week pay period, 303 hours? That's impossible.
That's impossible.
336
Does he
hours.
never go to sleep?
In fact, there are 336 hours total in 2 weeks, meaning Young was not being paid for only 33 hours over that period.
Meaning that he was only not billing the village in that 2-week period for 33 hours where he supposedly wasn't working, because there's, of course, only 336 hours in a 2-week period total. Now, we had actually already talked about on this channel how almost all 29 of the people that they were looking for disciplinary records for were Tiffany A. Henyard loyalists, her puppets, and whatnot, but I thought it was important to highlight names that we've heard before so that you guys can understand that clearly and obviously this is an investigation that is targeting the super mayor, the people's mayor, the champion of the citizens, the woman who puts her face all over town, and they want to know what she's been spending the money on. And I can't wait to see it, because we get little snippets of the bills that are unpaid. The fact that the village of Dolton isn't paying for the repairs of their police vehicles, which, by the way, they had a massive crash. They're not paying for the actual vehicles, the payments on them, yet they're paying for Tiffany A. Henyard's infamous Chevy Tahoe, where, of course, they're paying over $50,000 in interest on said Tahoe. Clip right here.
The child's paying $149,000 for one of them trucks. You make absolute, that's like when you 19 years old and you go get a car and the interest rate 27%. That makes absolutely no sense. You're
Please
not
state
making
facts.
great finance, excuse me?
Please state facts.
But let me tell you, here it is, dated December 27, 2022. The cash price of a 2023 Chevy Tahoe, $93,216.71. Interest and APR, $55,929.49. Total lease price, $149,146.20. Tell me if it's not facts, because your signature is all on it.
And it seems like the FBI is zooming in on the appropriate stuff. They're looking at the appropriate people. And again, the Tiffany A. Henyard administration, as much as it breaks my heart, is not long for this world. It looks like it's going to be a wrap for the super mayor, and I'm so excited for the Village of Dolton meeting that occurs on the first Monday of every month that is set to occur this Monday, and I cannot wait to see the results of that, because now that she's been accused, the meetings were already chaotic, but now that she's been subpoenaed, it's going to be absolutely crazy.
The subpoena also shows the FBI is looking into complaints by Dolton business owners whose licenses have been held up by the village, asking for licensing information for 10 bars and restaurants, including 2 that were raided and closed by Dolton police in February, Rinky's Bar and Pablo's Cafe and Bar, after Fox 32 visited those businesses to ask about their owners' frustration.
Now, if you'll remember, there's a bunch of different stories about the super mayor not giving permits to certain businesses. Allegedly, reportedly, this was due to the fact that these businesses were not contributing to her campaign, they were not supporting her, and we also talked about the fact that after the FBI talked to these businesses, after the local media was spotted at these businesses, they were raided essentially that night in what looked like retaliation. Now, the super mayor says, listen, there's fights, there's all kinds of problems in these locations, and honestly, the fact that they were shut down coincidentally when they were complaining about her has nothing to do with anything, and it's nothing for you to worry about. And in fact, we actually did a video where we went over a Village of Dolton meeting where they discussed the closing of these businesses, and they had reasons for it, but they were conflicting reasons. You had the police chief say that they were shutting them down because there were fights and all kinds of dangers and whatnot. Then you had the person who does sanitation talk about how, oh, they weren't putting their trash in the right spot, and that's why they were shut down. And then you had another additional person saying that you have to be a resident of the Village of Dolton to open a business, and some of these people weren't actually residents of the Village of Dolton. Always a bad sign, by the way, when somebody asks you for an explanation of something and you give 3 different explanations. I'm not saying that they're lying, but typically that's a sign that they're lying. I mean, again, if you ask your husband or your wife, where were you? And they said, I was working late, but I was also at a friend's house, but I was also at the bar. You might be a little bit more suspicious of those 3 answers than any one of those answers individually.
And it's clear the feds are focusing on all the expensive out-of-state travel by Henyard and her crew, including first-class plane tickets, asking for travel records for all trips, but specifying Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, and Portland, Oregon.
Now, we've actually talked about a bunch of these different trips on this channel before. If you guys will remember, the super mayor Supermayor Tiffany Henyard actually bought a $3,700 first-class round-trip ticket to Las Vegas on the taxpayer dime.
They show township taxpayers also spent money on the Vegas trip on everything from steak dinners to hotels, and $3,741 just on Henyard's round-trip flight.
But I shouldn't have to sit up here and break all this down.
And what is not reported in that local news report is that Keith Freeman did the same thing as well. Not to mention the fact that you had trustees, police officers, wives, friends, all of these people that should not have been covered by the taxpayer, that have nothing to do with the business of the village of Dolton or the Thornton Township, because yes, she split the billing between the two of them, and they were still covered by the taxpayer. Absolute absurdity, and I'm glad to see that we're going to get a full breadth of the records through these subpoenas, although I expect the supermayor to do a shredding party because we all know she's not going to go down without a fight. Now, unfortunately for her, her lawyers happen to have abandoned her because among the various many things that she is not paying, those lawyers are included. So I don't know what level of a fight she's going to put up, but she is the supermayor. She will stand and she will fight back. And I can't wait to hear all the different ways that she responds to these allegations. Now, I will also point out that when the FBI asked the supermayor about her credit card statements, she could always respond with, "I ain't got nothing to do with credit cards," like she did to the local media. However, I don't think that's going to work as well as she hopes.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
Now, if you guys will recall, there was also a different allegation of the supermayor potentially stamping a third-party stamp that they need to have authorized because every check requires 2 signatures, but one of the officials has their signature in stamp form. So I'm interested if there's going to be like a forgery investigation or something like that related to this, but it seems like the FBI is looking into everything. It seems like Keith Freeman, they are trying to get him to flip, and we might see the end of the supermayor, which, by the way, in terms of Illinois politics, this makes perfect sense because they have the most politicians prosecuted for corruption anywhere in the nation. In fact, a neighboring town to the village of Dolton also had their mayor indicted for crimes like this, for misappropriating funds for all kinds of other issues over there. So this would not be surprising for this particular area.
They're questioning the finances because that's been a real big concern of mine as a board member. We've been wondering how the money is being spent.
Mayor, why do you need so many officers, details, and security? Last year, Fox 32 reported on Henyard's pricey police security detail, with Dolton officers working thousands of hours of overtime to drive the mayor around and sometimes run her personal errands. Well, the FBI took notice, asking for shift records for a number of officers assigned to that detail.
So like I said earlier on, I recognize the name Terry Young because he builds so much in overtime, but as you could see, you have a bunch of different officers in this police department. And what you need to understand is that the village of Dolton only has 20,000 people, so they don't have a lot of police officers. So this is a significant portion of their police force that are currently under investigation, that they're looking into the shift records for, and honestly, this is definitely definitely justified, because if you'll remember from the Tommy G documentary, him even showing up with cameras to the village hall solicited an insane police response. Now, this is at the same time where residents of Dolton complain about their sidewalks not being fixed, about the police taking forever to show up to their particular incidents where they need help, and the supermayor is just protected by a mob of these individuals.
Mayor, why do you need so many officers, details, and security? When we asked Henyard about it, Mayor, mind if I ask you a couple questions about your security detail?
Absolutely not.
I'm asking her.
Yeah, she said no.
Now, I do like that we have Keith Freeman saying that she's not going to answer questions. She can't even be bothered to speak to the plebs in the media. But this next thing I absolutely love, because it just goes to show you what an absolute idiot Roland Martin is.
And the subpoena request records for Henyard's self-named charitable foundation, which, as we reported last year, used Dolton employees and vehicles during a fundraising march to Springfield.
I don't think anyone ever should get over the fact that Roland Martin asked this woman to her face if the Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation had something to do with her, something that she announced publicly, something that she appears in all the marketing, something that she appears in the videos, and Roland Martin bought the explanation that she did not actually have anything to do with that charitable organization. And then when his producers were like, Roland, you absolute buffoon, we pulled up this video, not from the charity YouTube channel, but from the official Thornton Township YouTube channel, which, by the way, Tiffany Henyard is also the head of the Thornton Township Board of Supervisors, and it's her all over this video, and yet he still bought that explanation. I know Roland Martin thinks that he's a high-level journalist and that he's just so far ahead of us novices, that we couldn't possibly understand what he was doing in there, but what we know, what we realize, what we can see for ourselves is that this woman made a fool of him. This woman, who hasn't fooled a single individual into thinking she's not corrupt, fooled Roland Martin. And I just want to emphasize that again, because now the feds are looking into this foundation that Roland Martin totally bought was nothing to do with Tiffany A. Henyard.
Trustee Norwood says the FBI subpoena is targeting information that even board members have not been able to access.
I'm happy that it seems like the residents will eventually get the answers to the questions that they've been asking.
In all, the FBI has served a total of 5 subpoenas over the past 2 weeks on Dolton and Thornton Township, where Henyard also serves as supervisor.
So far, like he said, we are at 5 different subpoenas. They have until May 20th in order to turn over all the records to the grand jury. As we talked about in a previous video, they're going to meet on May 13th. And the next date that you want to keep in mind in your brain, in your hearts, and all that is May 6th, because that is when they're supposed to have their next scheduled meeting. And I'm expecting fireworks. I haven't decided if I'm going to live stream that particular meeting, but I might. I am considering it. It might be that big of a day that we actually have to do that, because it's going to be epic. We all know it's going to be epic. I'm hoping for 45 minutes of ranting. I'm hoping for craziness. I'm hoping for screaming. And based on the previous meetings where they've actually argued for 30 minutes on just what they were going to discuss in the meetings, I think it's going to be a treat for everybody out there in the audience. Regardless, I will do a recap of said meeting. Can't wait to look into it. But of course, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Is the super mayor going to stand up to this scrutiny? Is the super mayor going to prove that all her records are clean and it was just everyone else that was conspiring against her? Or is this the beginning of the end for the super mayor? Are we going to see her in handcuffs? Are we going to see a public trial? For the love of God, can we have a public trial so I can keep covering the story? Let me know down in the comments below. As usual, if you like this video, you show me by leaving a like, you subscribe for more content, you follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the super mayor getting subpoenaed. Till next time.